Mr. President, this is Richard Peter, the founder of the Glorious National Party and its national political director. This is the night of your great speech. It is Tuesday, February the 24th in the year 2009. And Mr. President, I've been working on a plan for you where it's specific and directly to the point, I hope. Now, I have not had any communication with your Secretary of Treasury or with Ben Bernanke, but I have been, again, I serve the God who creates starlight, who lives within my consciousness, and he gave me specific solutions to the problems the country faces now, Mr. President. And so I'm going to give them to you, and I'm going to get this over to whitehouse.gov just as quickly as I possibly can. Just so that I have a historic record of this, it's Tuesday, February the 24th at 2000 in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, 2009, and the time is 4:52 p.m. Dallas, Texas time, many hours before the speech that all of us are going to be listening to you make tonight. If it corresponds to what I'm recommending here, we're on the right path. I'm sure it won't exactly, but I'll feel more comfortable with you as our new president if it does correspond to the plans. I'm going to give them to you now. Point one, nationalize the banks. No, there's no need to do this. I think Ben Bernanke made a statement today that we don't need to do that. Now, the other solution, point two, is to create one huge bad bank and print trillions in new United States dollars that will ignite inflation to buy toxic assets at the prices set by the banks. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. If you propose a single bad bank, that would be the worst thing you could possibly do. So I'll be listening carefully to you tonight to see what you propose. Point three, there are basically four banks today: Bank of America, Citigroup, JPMorgan Chase, and Wells Fargo, Mr. President, and a few others. What I need you to do, Mr. President, is to create separate bad banks for each of these four institutions and maybe a few others, and finance them by having the government assume an amount of each good bank's corporate debt equal to the value of the troubled assets put into the bad banks. Let me repeat that, Mr. President. Create separate bad banks for each of these four institutions and finance them by having the government assume an amount of each good bank's corporate debt equal to the value of the troubled assets put into the bad banks. Point five, each CEO will be called into the Oval Office and be given one chance to sell any assets to a new bad bank owned entirely by the government. Assets will be conveyed at year-end at audited book values, not at some inflated price by government auditors with real estate appraisal experience. Point six, right now, Mr. President, those assets are illiquid and depressed, but the government can hold on to these assets until they regain value with complete transparency. Point seven, the government pays for these assets not by printing new cash, which would ignite inflation, but by taking an equal dollar amount of each bank's liabilities, notes, bonds, and other obligations. Government, not the banks, chooses which liabilities that it would take responsibility for. Notes and bonds with maturities of 3 to 10 years is what I would suggest. The government pays down these liabilities through the cash flow that will be generated from the troubled assets themselves. 8. The government hires professional money managers to oversee the liquidation. Now, I need to disclose, be transparent here, Mr. President. This is what my firm does best, getting the most money I can from the folks I work for. In this case, I hope it's you, Mr. President, and the American taxpayer. Number 9, the banks retain strong asset bases, no longer have toxic securities, and will start to extend credit again. 10, insurance companies will benefit by exchanging weak debt now to securities guaranteed by the Treasury. 11, the program must be mandatory, Mr. President. Government should also get stock warrants and the ability to purchase stock in the future at a guaranteed price. 12, these banks then become the four best capitalized and cleanest banks in the world. Government could sell the warrants to private parties, another bonus for taxpayers. Private investors exercise the warrants, infusing even more common equity capital into the banks. 13, the four banks will have a clean balance sheet and the best capital ratios in the world, and they will start making new loans. Mandatory, Mr. President. Number 14, this should be included in the deal. All new mortgage loans will be made at no higher than 8% interest and will be made 15 or 30 years fixed. No more adjustable rate mortgage, with the first payment divided equally between principal and interest, Mr. President. Number 15, after the economic recovery, Mr. President, you will have the political capital to convert the Federal Reserve notes to a new United States currency, backed 33% in silver and gold in exactly the following manner. You must do this in exactly the following manner, Mr. President. The U.S. Treasury will arrange for loans in freshly created United States paper currency to banks to bring their cash reserves up to 100%. All currency labeled United States notes will be recalled and burned. Banks would pay 3% in the interest to the Treasury on these loans. 3. The Fed borrows from the Treasury the new currency to bring their cash reserves up to 100% to cover their demand deposits plus all government funds against which checks are being drawn by the government. The amount of U.S. securities held by the federal government, the amount of U.S. securities held by the Federal Reserve would be credited against these borrowings, canceling an equal amount. So it's a fair deal to the Federal Reserve. And then finally, a 15% flat tax across the board, a simple tax that can be filled out, Mr. President, on the back of a postcard, both corporate and individual. I apologize for looking down, but I took all night and all day to write this up for you, Mr. President. I look forward to your speech tonight, and I think it's going to be an interesting exercise for everyone to know that I am delivering this on the internet on Tuesday, February the 24th, 2009 at 4:58 p.m. Dallas time, and that I've had no contact with Mr. Bernanke or with your Secretary of Treasury, Timothy Geithner. My telephone number, once you review this, I'd like to fly to Washington. I'll be happy to take you to lunch. I want the advisors, I want Bernanke in the meeting, and I want Treasury in the meeting, and we'll go over this, Mr. President, and get this country back on its feet. But notice the most important thing eventually is to arrange for our United States currency. Now, Hillary Clinton's over there begging the Chinese to still do business with us. What we need to do, in the prayer that Jesus gave, Mr. President, it said, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. You need to use your political capital to call all the leaders of the free world together and say we're going to forgive each other's debts. We're going to abolish fractional banking. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to put God's honest money back into circulation. We're all going to forgive each other's debts, and we're going to start the world brand new, Mr. President. If they buck you on this, I would be happy to renominate you next year as the new president of the Glorious National Party, assuming you agree to resign from the Democratic National Party, Mr. President. And I will come and advise you if you invite me, sir, into the White House. But I want Rahm Emanuel's job. Tell that son of a gun to go pay his real estate taxes. And I promise you, Mr. President, that I won't crack my knuckles in your ears. So come to We the People. Get rid of the Chicago hack politicians. Come to We the People. We have creative ideas. I have a friend now who has an invention for solving the energy problem, new energy coming, 0-point energy. We can show you how to do that, Mr. President. It's available, providing you release the creativity of the American people and loan them the money to do it. Also, Mr. President, I want a national quiz show for every American who comes up with a plan like I've come up with. What you do is you give them a $1 million cash voucher tax-free, make it a lottery, and then have a quiz show and have people come in on different topics, not the Congress, they don't know a damn thing. Have the American people come into a quiz show. We love games, Mr. President, and say, solve the bank problem, and they'll probably come up with a plan like I've got, but it won't be nearly as good, Mr. President. Again, I really want you to call me, sir. Have that black limo pick me up. Put me on Air Force One. Give me a call. Pick up the phone and call me, Mr. President. The number is 1-877-365-0042. My private mobile phone is 469-569-8209. I love you, Mr. President. I respect you. I just want you to get good advice, and this is the best advice that I can possibly give. I give all honor and glory to the God who raised Jesus Christ from the dead, the God who created starlight, your father and my father and everyone's father, Mr. President. Let's put God back in control of this country through the good offices of the presidency of the United States of America. God bless you, Mr. President, and God bless the United States of America.